We will call the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority meeting to order on July 12, 2017 at 9 a.m. Mr. Tejas, any public comment? Okay. All right, we'll go to item number 3, adoption of minutes for the RMA special board meeting of June 6, 2017. Everyone should have had those minutes for review.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item number 3 is approved. Presentation and discussion on the new RMA website. Mr. Tejas.
Yes, ma'am. Raymond Tejas, Executive Director of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. As you all know, we've been working on a new website for some time. The original website that we put into place, I want to say back in 2008, has served us well, but it's time to move on, I think. So today we have with us Brandon Silverstein. He's a partner with Viva Impulse, and he was the lead in developing our website. So I'll ask Brandon to come up and walk you through the new website.
All right. Thank you, Raymond. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brandon Silverstein. I'm a partner at Viva Impulse Creative Co. Started the business about 11 years ago. I'm a proud El Pasoan, born and raised here. We work with a lot of different clients all over the country. Specifically in El Paso, we've worked with the city, we've worked with the county, we have worked with Destination El Paso, the El Paso Community Foundation, and we're very proud and excited to add the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority to our portfolio. So as Raymond said, the existing website has served you all well, but it's time to modernize and create a new website. And when we built this website, we had 3 main goals. The first goal was to make the website mobile friendly. So when the existing website was built in 2008, the iPhone was barely a thing. Android phones, I don't think, were even available. And a lot of people still looked at websites on their desktop computers, but obviously now that's all changed with iPhone and Android and tablets. Everyone, a lot of people use non-desktop devices to view websites. A lot of our websites that we manage, over 65% of traffic comes from mobile devices, so non-desktop PC devices. So it's really, really important to have a mobile-friendly website. So with the new website, we built what's called a responsive website. And it is a single website that responds to the width of the device that it is being viewed on. So whether you are looking at the website on a larger monitor like this or on a small phone, the content adjusts itself and goes into a mobile-friendly view. So if I make this screen a little bit smaller, all of the content stays in view, and when I hit like a narrow mobile view, I still see all of the content, but now I have a mobile optimized menu over here. There's a lot of other features that I don't want to spend a lot of time on, but the fact that the website is responsive and mobile friendly is great. It makes the user experience so much better when people are looking at the website. The second goal that we had was to make the website look better. So we incorporated the colors of the CRRMA logo, the purple and the orange. We used larger photography. There's nice background images of El Paso. There's photography throughout the website that I'll show you. So the website overall looks a lot better and more modern than the existing website. So just a couple of, I'll go through a few of the pages and sections on the website. So obviously this is the home page. We have a summary of meetings on the page, and we have stats about the CRRMA that you can scroll through at the bottom. I want to go to the About page. So the About page just has information specifically about the CRRMA. There is a Meet the CRRMA page that has information about you all and pictures, which will be replaced by the much better pictures that you all just took outside. The navigation of the website is very, very clear. So we have about CRRMA, we have current projects. So if I click on current projects, there's an overview about current projects. And I'm going to click on the streetcar project link. So this is the page dedicated to the El Paso streetcar project. So nice logo, information, map, frequently asked questions, and then we have a nice photo gallery of images that you can click on to see larger images. The sub-navigation, so these are all of the current projects, stays fixed at the top of the website, so it's a little easier for people to toggle between different projects, so that's a nice feature. The past projects page, pretty self-explanatory, has information about past projects. Procurement, same thing. One thing that we were excited about, the meetings and information page. So this is a section that has information about the current board meeting and past board meetings. All of these meetings, or most of the meetings, have associated video with them. And on the existing website, that video was in Windows Media Player format. And you pretty much needed a Windows PC to view those videos easily. There was ways to install software on a Mac and other computers to see those videos. But what we did, and I'm going to go to the December 14th, 2016 meeting, we took all of those Windows Media files and uploaded them to YouTube, which means that we can easily embed them on the new website, and they're easily playable on any device, iPhone, Android, PC. You don't have to download software anymore. It's a standard YouTube embed window, which is great. So it's a lot easier for people to go back and watch archived videos. There's a contact page so people can get in touch with the CRRMA, and then there's information about toll lanes, making a toll payment, and pay by mail. So the navigation is very clear and concise and lets users get the information that they want quickly and easily. The third goal of the website was to make the website a lot easier to manage, and we built a custom content management system into the new website. So Raymond, anyone else involved with the CRRMA can log in to a control panel and make updates to the website, whether it's changing content, adding pictures, frequently asked questions, even posting meeting agendas, embedding videos when the meeting is over. So it's a lot easier to keep the website up to date, to add information, and basically just update content on the website. So the website is still on our test domain. We plan on launching the website as soon as possible. And that's a summary of the new website. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
So Raymond, you can make all those changes? You're a high-tech person? Is
Not
that
yet,
what they're
but I'm
trying
working
to
on
tell me?
it. Actually, that is a huge improvement, I think, over the last website, because we had to do some unique treatments to actually get an agenda online and that sort of thing. This actually allows me direct access to not only post the agenda, but post the backup, update the backup, and that sort of thing in a really easy format. Even I think I can do it. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, we make that content management system very easy for anyone to use. So that's a good feature that a lot of our clients love.
Yeah, that's great. It looks good. It looks good. Any comments? Or
Well, a question. What will be your ongoing role with the website? You're just hands-off now, or just when there are problems? Or?
Yeah, so we're responsible for hosting the website, so we keep the website online. We make sure that it's always available. We fix any issues that come up. So we have the content management system in place for you all to update the website, but we're here to answer any questions that you have about that process. If there's new functionality that needs to be built into the website, that's one of our responsibilities. So we will have an ongoing relationship, but it's, as far as like the day-to-day operation of the website and managing content, we like to empower our clients to be able to do that.
So you're on a monthly contract?
Yeah, correct.
for the hosting?
For the hosting.
For hosting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. Well, I'm ready for it to go live. I don't know about everybody else, but I think that's exciting.
Good.
And I would encourage everyone, even in our audience, to go to our website and click on buttons and look at it. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please let Raymond know. Because this is the face, really, of the RMA. So very good.
That's right.
Good
So
job.
we'll spend some time trying to take it live maybe this afternoon, as early as this afternoon, if not within the next couple of days. And I'll be working on it thereafter. So let me know if you see anything that needs
You're going to
change.
get lessons, is that correct?
I've gotten lessons, actually.
Okay.
I have. I'm probably going to need another set of lessons before I actually take
No
this thing
problem,
over.
no problem.
And by the way, that's obviously why you all were outdoors taking a photo. We're updating the member page as well. So I'll be sending you all a request for updated bio information that I'll be able to add to the website here shortly as well. So complete refresh is what we're looking for today.
Looks good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Something to be proud of. Thank you. All right. We'll move on to item number 5. So discussion and action on board resolutions related to additional drainage and survey work necessary for the Darrington Road project from the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan. Board resolution authorizing the chair to execute an amendment to an interlocal agreement with the County of El Paso, and B, board resolution authorizing the executive director to execute an amendment to work authorization number 2 with Hewlett-Zollars. Mr. Kess.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So as read into the record, this deals with the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan. As with all of those projects, that includes our relationship with the County of El Paso, whereby we have various agreements with them where they provide access to vehicle registration fee revenues that we've used then to issue vehicle registration fee bonds. However, in order to access the vehicle registration fee bond proceeds, the county requires us to enter into an agreement with them identifying what funds we would use and how we would use them. So when you look at item 5A, then you're seeing an amendment to the existing interlocal agreement that we have with the County of El Paso related specifically to the Darrington Road project. And the reason for that is that there are additional survey and drainage activities that were actually requested by the County of El Paso, but the funds that they had originally provided for design services have been used. So this amendment under 5A is an amendment between the RMA and the county, whereby the county authorizes the RMA to access an additional just shy of $92,000 for drainage and survey work that was originally requested by the county. Associated with that then, of course, is item 5B, and that's the amendment to the design agreement that we have with Hewlett-Zollars, whereby we actually amend their agreement to provide the funds and the scope to do the work that was requested by the county. So collectively, 5A and B actually implement the changes that I outlined. So subject to your questions, I would request and recommend approval. This item, obviously, the next step will actually be for item 5A to go to the Commissioner's Court. Once it's approved there, then I will formally sign 5B and the designer can get to work.
Any questions or discussion, comments for Mr. Chance?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So items 5A and B have been approved. Item number 6, presentation, discussion, and action on board resolutions authorizing the following change orders to the construction contract with the Paso del Norte Track Works as they relate to the El Paso streetcar project. Change order number 4A, change order number 14, minor modification to the maintenance and storage facility, including changes to a relief fan and overhead doors. Change order number 15, gas meter relocation at the maintenance and storage facility. C, change order number 16, electrical connections for the traction power substations. D, change order number 17, off-duty police officer traffic control services. And E, change order number 18, relocation of power disconnects in the traction power substations and additional work for overhead contact system pole foundations.
Thank you.
That's a lot of change orders.
Well, Sylvia,
Mr. Davis.
there's actually one more. If I could ask you to read item 7 into the record, because
okay,
that's
we're going to
also
take them together. Okay.
Yeah, please.
So item number 7, discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing the executive director to execute the following instruments as part of the El Paso streetcar project for certain infrastructure improvements to the Cincinnati corridor requested by the City of El Paso. A, interlocal agreement with the City of El Paso, and B, change order number 19 to the construction contract with Paso del Norte Track Works. Okay.
Thank you. So I have a PowerPoint that touches on each of these change orders, 14 through 19. What I'd like to do is walk through all of those. I did, as you noticed, I separated item number 7 because that is a little bit different. That is a change order, but that's specifically being requested by the City of El Paso, so I did want to take that a little bit separately. But it is rolled into this PowerPoint. So today we have with us also Gil Gardner, who's a construction manager for Atkins, and he's obviously our construction manager for the streetcar project. If you have any technical questions, I'll ask Gil to help me out. And as always, obviously, please stop me if you have any questions. So we're going to talk about these change orders, and we'll have a summary at the back end, of course, questions throughout. So change order number 14, and I'd note also the backup that's included on the website and that you all each have includes the specific backup in terms of what's being requested and what's being completed by the contractor and what makes up these figures. So change order number 14 actually has 3 components to it. The first one deals with a relief fan. So the relief fan was a little bit too close to the air intake for the air conditioning unit, and that required relocation, reinstallation. There's an overhead door as well that required a fix. There was a steel plate and a door channel, and the plate had to be binded to the door and the wall in order to avoid a conflict with the overhead door. And then the third component is a push button. That was adding a second overhead door push button control into the wash bay. So that makes up change order number 14. And again, Mr. Gardner's here if you have any specific technical questions. The photo on the left shows the relief fan relocation. You can see that hole there on the left, that was the original location of the relief fan. And as you can see, it's too close to the AC unit. The overhead door plate issue can be seen in the photo on the right. So that's number 14. Number 15 then deals specifically with the maintenance and storage facility gas service. The first item notes that at the request of Texas Gas, there's a gas meter that was requested to be relocated further away from doorways, roof drains, and windows. The original location we felt was appropriate. Our designers felt was appropriate, but Texas Gas in the end asked us to relocate. They felt that it was too close. Then the second item is actually, you'll recognize this. This is similar to the El Paso Electric Company service fees. Whenever you connect a new facility to gas service, just like you do with the electric service, you have to pay for that startup service. So that is another $11,000. So that's that item, and this is just a couple of photos showing you the meter issues. Number 16 then deals with power drops. This item, and I should mention several of these change orders were actually anticipated expenditures that were built into the project budget. So this is an example of that. The original understanding on this one was that the El Paso Electric Company was going to bring the power from their transformers up to the project's building, the switches, and the cabinets. However, the electric company said, no, we won't do that. You need to do that. We'll bring power to the transformer. The owner, in this particular instance, the RMA, would have to make that final connection. So, of course, we're doing that through our contractor, and that's why you see this as a change order. But again, these expenditures were anticipated. We just thought that we would be paying them to the electric company, whereas today we're instead paying them to the contractor.
Can I interrupt here
Certainly.
before we move on through the
Go
chair?
ahead, Mr. Neiman.
And back up. And I noticed in the backup that you provided us in the agenda, you mentioned that according to the original design, El Paso Electric was to complete their portion of the work, and it was always going to be paid by the same money. It's just the question was who did it. Am I understanding correctly?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. All right, that's it.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Wardy.
Where are the transformers on this? Because this is a little bit unusual. Gil, can you explain to me where?
Yeah, the transformers are actually in the TPSS site.
Identify yourself.
Pardon?
Identify yourself.
Oh, I am Gil Gardner with the the construction manager. I'm sorry. The transformers themselves are in the traction power substation units in the buildings. And then we had a plug out or a tie out for a manhole for connection for El Paso Electric to tie in. What they didn't know at the time was where El Paso Electric would be bringing the power from.
Oh, okay.
And so we budgeted a certain amount, assuming that El Paso would send us a bill. What they said is they wanted the contractor to do it rather than El Paso Electric.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much for clarification.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's change order number 16. 17 deals with off-duty officers. So the original project had the contractor engaging El Paso Police Department off-duty officers to handle traffic control. We transitioned that actually. The RMA historically has done its own traffic control services. So we had a relationship directly with the El Paso Police Department, for example, on the Americas interchange, where we would call them, we would ask them to come out, and they would bill us. In this version, we actually had the contractor doing it initially, but we've shifted that since. So again, this is another example of anticipated costs. We knew we would make these payments. It was just a matter of who we were making them to. This $2,991 are the expenses that were incurred by the Paso Norte track works, the contractor, before we transitioned them back to the RMA. So we now control these expenditures. We ask the police to come out, and we make those payments directly to the police department. So this is more of a cleanup item than anything else, really. That's 17. So 18 then deals with maintenance and storage facility, traction power, and straddle foundations. So the first item, the locations of the OCS disconnect switches inside the maintenance and storage facility and the conduits in the traction power substation S1 were changed after the conduit were installed. So that change required additional work for that one. The second item is a true change order in that it deals with unforeseen conditions. So as you know, the overhead contact system, those are all the poles. There's over 400 poles that will be placed for this particular project. As you're digging underground, obviously, we hope to know where most of the utility conflicts are. You'll see under this second bullet point, 17 of those OCS foundations encountered conflicts with existing unknown communication lines. So what we do with OCS foundations is we've provided details to the contractor so that if they encounter a conflict, they have the ability to move within, and I'm not going to remember the amount of feet, Gil can share that with us, but they can move a certain number of feet to the north, south, east, or west. They have different approved designs that they could use in case they encounter certain conflicts. These 17 wouldn't fit within those parameters that we provided them because the conflicts were either going against where they needed to go. For whatever reason, there were 17 OCS foundations that didn't fit into the parameters we provided, so that required additional potholing, which is basically digging down very carefully to identify communications and utility lines, additional location activities. So anyhow, this fairly significant expenditure of $185,000 was for the relocation of 17 OCS foundations. So that's that item. And that is something Gil would have to tell you what that is. And so that takes us to 19, which is the big one.
Can we back up for a minute?
Yeah.
Sorry to back up. Why would we move the switches after the conduit was already laid? I don't. Can somebody explain that to me?
I'm Gil Gardner with RMA.
At least you're smiling, Gil.
All right. The disconnect switches inside the MSF ended up with a conflict with some of the other switches, so they had to relocate the disconnect switch. These are the big switches for the 750 volt power that's going in, that's running that. So the switch had to be put in a different situation. It was really more of a coordination issue between the OCS designer constructor and the maintenance facility designer constructor. Then the additional conduit had to do whenever the traction power There's one traction power substation within the maintenance facility. It's a fairly small room. They had laid it out, but then whenever Siemens came with their equipment, the equipment didn't quite fit, so they had to relocate the conduit in order to make that work, is what occurred.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. Mr. Tejas, who designed the maintenance facility?
Alvidres design here locally.
Well, I'm going to tell you after inspecting it myself, and I think a lot of mistakes were made, and we keep having to pay for mistakes that in the private sector, the architect eats them because they're design flaws. No disrespect to anyone, but there's way too many change orders on this thing and things that were not engineered properly and end up the city and the taxpayers at some point or another in these funds end up having to pay for them. I know there's always some change orders, but it just keeps going on here like a litany list.
Well, and so let me address that because I think it's a good point. We're talking about change orders all the way through 19. That's a large number, but I will tell you that the majority of the change orders are either anticipated costs that because of the way that the contract was structured, we have to do it as a change order, but technically really isn't. By way of example, the police department, right? So small amount, but the concept is clear and it runs throughout the 19 change orders where we knew we were going to make the expenditure. It wasn't an unforeseen condition, which is a true change order, but we have that expenditure and it does show up as a change order. There are a number of others as well. In fact, I've got a running spreadsheet of the change orders that I can share with you that shows those that we anticipated, those like, for example, number 19 coming up, which is a significant change order over $2 million that is being requested by the city of El Paso. It's not a true change order either. But when you break down the true change orders, those unforeseen conditions that deal with design issues or that sort of thing, the amount and the percentage against the total construction contract is actually fairly small. So let me get that data to you. In fact, I'll share it with you later this afternoon.
Well, my point is, Mr. Tejas, and for the board's side, I have built maintenance facilities, okay? And there's a couple of significant design flaws that show somebody's inexperience in designing facilities like this. No disrespect, we're just talking about business here. I mean, there should be a steel extension out of that door for the hoist to move things out. So I would like to be there the first time they take an air conditioning unit off and try and load it on a flatbed. Mr. Gardner and I discussed that. And then the use of pits for maintenance is an antiquated process. It's an insurance nightmare. Most modern maintenance facilities no longer do that. But, I'm surprised, actually, this is just a personal comment, at, I believe, at the experience of somebody designing a maintenance facility of this type. So, for the record, no disrespect to anyone in this.
Certainly.
Thank you, Mr. Worthy. Appreciate your comments.
So that'll take us to change order 19, which deals with Cincinnati. As you may recall, we've briefly touched on this in the past. This deals specifically with the City of El Paso's program known as the City Lights program. In that program, as I understand it, the city has identified several corridors around this community that are important districts for the community. For example, Kern is one of them. I think 5 Points is another. Downtown El Paso is another. So the program, the intention of the program is to provide, there we go, we're back. The intent, as I understand it, of the city's City Lights program is to provide pedestrian amenities, aesthetic improvements, and additional improvements to important corridors within the community. The Cincinnati Avenue pedestrian improvements deal specifically with the Kern Place area. And as the city has developed the designs for that, they are asking the Camino Real RMA to roll those construction activities into the streetcar project because the limits of both projects are intertwined. The idea is very similar to what the RMA has done with the Central Business District Phase 4 project for the city, where there are The Central Business District 4 project aligns very closely with segments of the streetcar project. So rather than the RMA coming in and building streetcar and the city coming in, tearing it up, and then redoing certain work for Central Business District 4, we actually rolled their plans into our project. This is essentially the same thing. It's coming a little bit later and as a change order, but that's essentially what's happening. So here are the bullet points for this one. The additional scope that's being added to the project at this time is at the request of the City of El Paso, and it is through their City Lights program. This change order actually uses the plans that were developed by the city and is paid for entirely with city funds. The project scope includes striping for additional parking on Stanton, pedestrian amenities, and reconstruction of roadways. This is an important note. Pedestrian access will be maintained throughout construction. That's important because obviously this is an important corridor for pedestrians. The work in this change order will take approximately 6 months and will cost $2,610,585.36. Again, these are entirely city funds. Here are a couple of the design documents that have been provided by the city. This is, as I understand it, this is looking, I guess it would be east up Cincinnati. They are changing it so that you've got parallel parking on the left-hand side. You've got the through lane, the drive-through lane in the center, and angled meter parking on the right. You'll see pedestrian amenities on either side and trees and landscaping and the like. And as with all of our presentations, this will go up online here after the meeting, so you can spend some time looking through this. Again, actually very similar to the streetcar project itself, this component was entirely designed by the City of El Paso through its consultants, and in effect the RMA is coming in strictly to build what was designed by the city. Lastly, this is a major component of the City Lights program. There are major elements like this added to each of the corridors, and this is the one for Kern Place. So we will construct this for them and install it. So that, in a nutshell, are the various change orders 14 through 19. You see here them laid out together. Collectively, it's a little over $3 million worth of change orders. Now, I'd mentioned, as we discussed earlier, 19 is really very different because it is additional scope that was not anticipated that is being requested by the city and being entirely funded by the city. Everything else that you look at in terms of change orders 14 through 18 were either anticipated costs or the expenses that are being requested today fit well within the contingency budget that we have allocated for the project. So that last bullet obviously is the most important bullet throughout this entire presentation. That is to say the project is still on schedule and within budget. So with that then, item 6A through E includes board resolutions requesting approval of change orders 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Then item 7A is an interlocal between the City of El Paso and the Camino Real RMA. That interlocal, in effect, provides the funding for the City Lights project, the $2.6 million from the city to the RMA, and allows the RMA to complete the work. And then item 7B would issue the change order number 19 to Paso del Norte Track Works for the completion of the City Lights program work. I would mention as well that at yesterday's City Council meeting, there was an item on the agenda to discuss moving the funds necessary for this particular City Lights program, and it was mentioned that the RMA would complete the construction. They had a complete conversation about it, and they have approved the moving of those funds. The next step for them, as was mentioned at the council, was that the interlocal would come back to them in 2 weeks. So what will happen today, if the board approves, if you approve item A, I'll have the board chair sign that, hand it over to the city council. They'll take it to the agenda in 2 weeks. I will hold change order 19 until council approves it. Once they approve it, then we'll issue change order 19 and it will be complete. So subject to your questions, I would request approval of items 6A through E and items 7A and B.
Thank you, Mr. Taz. We also should mention that for RMA oversight, in that $2.6 million, we have a 3% administration and oversight fee coming to the RMA.
That's right, thank you. So the board has previously required the inclusion of administrative fees in any project that we undertake for another entity, so that's at 3% in this particular project. There's another 3% in there for contingencies. So in the event that we identify some unforeseen conditions, we also have access to 3% of that total construction amount for those change orders as well, without having to go back to the council for additional funds. So we have the estimate provided by the construction contractor. We have those funds from the city. We have 3% for administrative expenses and GEC oversight, and we have 3% for contingency.
I have a question.
Mr. Wording.
This is a related question, but not to this. Mr. Tejas, I would really like to know what the other regional mobility authorities are charging to manage projects. I'm concerned about the long-term viability of the RMA. If some toll roads are eliminated, if certain projects are eliminated, we have to have some money to operate and to build some staff. So maybe it'd be good for the board if you were to maybe poll, when you have a minute, the other RMA, see what they charge for their administrative overhead costs.
Absolutely, I can do that.
I don't know if what we're doing is good or not. I'm just saying I think it would be a good exercise for us related to this. So not directly related to this question, but I
No,
wanted to,
it's a
if
good
it's
question.
okay to bring that up. Thank you.
That's good.
So I can do that. I can tell you also the 3% that we arrived at for this and prior projects. In fact, it fluctuates a little bit. The percentage that we came up with actually comes from the fee that TxDOT charges for when they're administering a project.
Yeah, but TxDOT has a lot of money and we don't.
Totally agree.
Those are
But
big
just so
dollars.
you know where it comes from.
Okay, no, understood. Thank you for the clarification.
Certainly.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Tabbs?
I have a question, and if I may, I need to, this is regards change order number 18, and I want to talk about the mechanics of how this is done, because as I was going through the support documentation, I see that Granite subcontracted with Baines, and Baines then subcontracted with other folks, and Baines adds 15% of overhead and profit, and then Granite adds 5% on top of everything for being the contractor. So you have, and the people that are actually doing the work probably have some overhead and profit too. So you see a stacking. So my question is, are the contractors obliged to put things out for bid, or do we just trust them? How do we handle that? And can you discuss the mechanics?
Certainly. So change orders are always more expensive, and for various reasons, right? And this is one of them, in fact.
Right.
The additional costs that the contractors provide. So there's I think the real answer is a change order. When we seek additional construction activities, we provide them with the scope, and they provide a cost back to us. We go through that and see if we're comfortable with it. There are different options. They do not go back out. Normally, they do not go back out. But what we will do is we will look back at the original construction contract, because the contract has bid costs per item for most instances. So there are some change orders that are not listed within the bid list. So if, for example, we didn't include copper wire, then we wouldn't have that line item to go back and say, look, your bid is too high, it has to be back at the contract that we signed. So that's one way to deal with it. The other one is when they're outside of that, then it's really more of a, are we comfortable with the amount that they're providing to us?
Okay.
I think the question, though, begs on subcontracting to a subcontractor. You know, I think what Mr. Niemer is referring to is, why didn't Granite go with the people that actually do the work, so that we don't end up paying all this overhead?
Well, I think the subcontractor to the subcontractor is the group that's actually doing the work, right? So what we do is we hire one general contractor, and they're responsible for doing all of the other work. We also require them to bring in DBEs and that sort of thing to kind of push that work out to the local region and the smaller entities as well. So this is somewhat a result of that. So the folks that are actually doing the work are the locals, and that's where that additional percentage comes in.
Yeah, but I think not to beat it up, but so Granite subcontracts to Baines, and then Baines subcontracts the work to another entity. So the overhead that we incur through all this, from Granite to Baines to their people, is significant part of the cost.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So do we need to take those separate, 6 and 7?
yes, please.
Vote on them separate? Okay. If there's no further comments or discussion. Item number 6, entertain a motion.
Reluctantly, I make a motion to approve item 6.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, is that reluctantly? So we have a motion and a second for item number 6. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, so
Lighten
6.
it up a little.
And item number 7, I would have to comment that at least this is some efficiency in government where we're not having to go back and redo something that's already been done again. So I think having us do the work at this time really makes sense. So I'm happy that we're not having to, again, waste money to redo things. Yes, Mr. Wordy?
I think the prime example of this is Santa Fe Street in front of the ballpark. I'd like to be the asphalt contractor. My office is very close by, and I'm worn out by the amount of times that's been torn up and redone. So, I concur, Madam Chair.
There are potentially other activities that the city's looking at that may come back to you as additional change orders as well, with that same idea in mind.
Well, okay, it makes sense to do it now instead of having to tear up the work and have to pay for it again and again.
Yes, ma'am.
So item number 7.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item number 7 is approved. So item number 8 is the presentation and discussion on the following performance reports for the third quarter of fiscal year 2017. So we'll hear from the El Paso Bike Share Program, Cesar Chavez toll lanes, and the GEC's team results of using local resources. Mr. Tejas.
Thank you. So we've got another PowerPoint. We have 3 more PowerPoints to get through, very brief. So we're almost through. We're talking today about the third quarter of fiscal year 2017, Sun Cycle's performance report. So I always start with the map, and as always, as I mentioned before, these PowerPoints will be added online here after our meeting, so they'll be available to the public. Here's a summary of activity. So the rides taken in the third quarter of fiscal year 17 amount to 5,517. That's a really significant increase from last year. If you notice, the third quarter of last year, we had 2,488 rides. In this quarter, we had 5,517. So we're seeing continued increases over last year. You'll note also quarter 2 of 17 had 2,102 rides. Now, quarter 2 is always going to be our rough quarter because that's the coldest 3 months of the year. Quarter 3 seems to be the one where we're going to start picking back up again. In fact, we're seeing activity into June that's quite strong. So 5,500 rides in quarter 3. Total rides, 23,727, which is a good, strong showing. Total ride in minutes, we had in this quarter 243,000, and total rides in miles, just shy of 30,000 miles ridden in this last quarter, which is strong. Average ride is right at 44 minutes and 5.4 miles. So these are always the interesting ones to me. The carbon offset in pounds, 28,000 in this last quarter, and calories burned, over 1 million calories burned in just this one quarter alone. Here's some program highlights. And I may have touched on some of these. Quarter 3 of 17 shows more than twice the number of rides that were taken in quarter 3 of 16. San Jacinto Plaza remains as the station with the most checkouts. I think that's going to stay. That's just where everybody is and everybody's riding from. It's followed by Pioneer Plaza, Cleveland Square, and Anthony Street. And all of those positions remain the same as what we saw in quarter 2. Saturday, again, remains as the most active day, which is now followed by Sunday, with Friday showing an increase now as well. And this one is interesting and perhaps obvious, but it makes sense once you think about it. Rides in this quarter show a single peak period, whereas before in the last quarter we had several peak periods. Now the peak period in this last quarter is 8 to 9 p.m. Obviously, it's hotter. People are trying to ride when it's less hot. Top 50 routes. The top 3 are round trips, and this is the same as quarter 2: San Jacinto, Pioneer Plaza, and Cleveland Square. So this is, and again, this is more for the benefit of the public. You all have seen all this information. It's really summarized in the earlier slides, but these are the reports that we print out for each quarter, and it gives you a little more detail. It breaks down the rides by the types of pass that we have and that sort of thing. Here are some graphs to show you trip volume by membership and by duration, so you can see exactly who's riding and when, and by day of the week, as well as the peak period that I mentioned before as well. So this is the financial activity through fiscal year 17. This third quarter, we generated $26,993.53 in fares. And we had expenses of $45,000. So our nest egg, as you remember, this project is unique in that the original grant funds that we received for both Phase 1 and Phase 2 came with not only the capital expenditures, but they also came with some funds for operations and maintenance into the long term. So we kind of identify that as our nest egg. So our nest egg remains at $466,000, just shy of $467,000. And that's all I have for you on SunCycle. I think we have a representative from Messia Pedicab who runs our operations for us if you have any questions.
Any questions? I, again, will encourage you all that we have an opportunity to sell our promotion and promote the SunCycle. And that's, will be a small revenue stream for us, but still, I think we don't want to miss those opportunities to brand, to give people and businesses downtown opportunities to put their signage on our bikes and on our station. So please move ahead with that. I think it's important.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Because we're having great ridership. We can show that it's being used, and it's, I think it's a missed opportunity if we don't take advantage of it.
Agreed.
Is there any restriction for our doing that?
No, sir. No, in fact, as you've seen, we've developed the promotional program. Caesar and his team have begun speaking with groups about doing promotional activities.
But no nibbles.
We've definitely got some folks nibbling. Not quite on the hook just yet, but they are nibbling.
Good.
Go ahead.
Oh, excuse me. I saw it when I was in Seattle, the advertising on their bike program.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good. I'm surprised more people haven't jumped at it.
We've actually received calls about entities that want to purchase bikes and stations, place them where they want them, and have us do operations and maintenance. So there are definitely interested folks out there.
Interesting. Okay. Very good. Okay.
All right, so that takes us then to item 8B, which is the Cesar Chavez Express toll lanes. For that item, we have Cesar Nevares. He's with our general engineering consultant team, and he's going to present the latest quarterly report. But incidentally, let me take a moment, actually, before Cesar comes up, just to brief you. As you know, the board directed me back in June to begin identifying the steps necessary to remove the tolls from Cesar Chavez. I've had several conversations with TxDOT. I've met now with our attorneys and our engineers. We've mapped out exactly how to move forward. As of Monday, a conference call with TxDOT, the district, and the finance folks. They will have an item on their Transportation Commission agenda in July. I believe it's July 27th. And that item, at least as of now, is intended to provide the executive director with authority, very general authority, to implement, to take those steps necessary to actually remove the tolls. So my understanding is that TxDOT will take that singular action, and in the interim, we are lining up all the agreements that we're going to terminate, we're going to amend, or do something else with, and lay out all those other steps. So TxDOT's moving forward, we're moving forward, and we're in constant communication. Anyhow, with that, then I'll ask Mr. Nevares to speak to you about this last quarter.
Good morning, members of the board. Cesar Nevares with the GEC. Thank you for the opportunity to present the Cesar Chavez Performance Report. The presentation will include transactions per working day, total transactions, total revenue, and other additional information. For our first slide, we have the transactions per working day, and these are the number of vehicles going to the facility per day. The data is presented in a bar graph per quarters. Focusing on the data for the third quarter, which is represented by the purple bars, it is noticed that it increased from the second quarter. Next, we have the total transactions. Again, here the data is represented by bars and line styles per quarter. The bars represent dollar amounts by AVI and pay by mail. An AVI essentially is a transponder or a toll tag, whereas the pay by mail is essentially motorist without a toll tag. Again here, the data for the third quarter is represented by the purple bars. Once again, in comparison, the third quarter did increase from the second quarter. Now focusing on the AVI penetration for fiscal year 2017, which is the gray line style, it is noted that it has remained steady throughout the second and entering into the third quarter, with a decrease for the last month. And this is due to an issue with tag transactions being transferred to the National Interoperability Hub for the month of May. Once these transactions are processed, it is anticipated that the percentage should increase, except this will be shown until the fourth quarter results.
Can you explain that?
Can you clarify
Sure,
that?
sure, yes.
Is it a timing issue?
It's a
timing, or
twister.
it's just a change of?
Essentially, there was a delay in getting them to the actual hub, so that's why they weren't able to get them processed on time. And this is just the tag transactions.
Why are we doing that? Is that a change in process?
No, it's not
No.
a change. The way that these tolls are set up is that the transactions go to the toll hub, the interoperability hub, and then they're distributed to the members of the hub. So what Mr. Nevares is noting is that there was a hiccup in the transactions, those transactions getting to the hub. So that delayed the turnout of the funds. So that's why the numbers are a little bit slower. The next quarter, they will have been caught up and they'll show up there. So the revenues will actually be a little bit higher next quarter.
Okay. Moving now, and of course that'll be presented on to the fourth quarter, the results. The boxes on the top provide a comparison between transactions and forecasted either year to date, fiscal year 2017, or actual fiscal year 2016. Ultimately, pay by mail remains the preferred method of payment for motorists. Now we have total revenue. The data is presented in a bar graph per fiscal year quarters. This time the bars represent either forecasted or collected dollar amounts by AVI and pay by mail. Focusing on the third quarter data, which is represented by the bar, this is on to your far right. The data for this is incomplete due to an issue with the file transferring of the video transactions site. And again, this was a delay that they weren't able to transfer all the video transactions. So once these processes, and is it anticipated that once these transactions are billed and payment is received, revenue is anticipated will increase. Yes.
Question, Madam Chair.
Mr. Wardy?
When is that planned to occur, Mr. Tejas? Because my point is, no disrespect to anybody, maybe this report is premature since we're missing the data to really make any kind of observations of it.
So, and I think that's probably Correct. However, we schedule, these are scheduled.
Okay.
So this is the month that we always bring you the Chavez report. So I figured we would bring it, noting that it was a little bit off. I think, has the fix been performed?
Yes. It should be
So
performed.
they will definitely be within the next quarter. I wonder. Let me ask around and see if we can't tweak these charts to reflect. I don't know. Well, I'm kind of thinking out loud here. It's a dangerous idea. Let me see what I can do to provide additional details. Otherwise, in the next quarter, that's when we'll catch up and they'll show
Okay.
there.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy.
And again, for the fourth quarter, the actual results will be presented. The box at the top, once again, provide a comparison between collected and forecasted, except this time it's for dollar amounts, either year-to-date, fiscal year 2017, or actual fiscal year 2016. Now we have, this table shows previously presented data combined to provide a transaction revenue summary. The total for showing transactions per working day is an actual average. And just to note, that Mr. David had noticed is that for fiscal year 2017, the row showing March, April, and May should be an actual Q3, not a Q2. And that will be fixed for the next report. Now we have revenue and expenses. The table provides actual revenue, actual expenses per fiscal year. The values provided for fiscal year 2017 are estimates due to the mentioned delay of transaction processing mentioned. And these will be reflected, improved for the fourth quarter. Additionally, expenses include cost of collections, operations, insurance, and maintenance. For our last slide, we have the Veteran Waiver Program, which is established to provide disabled veterans with a certain percent disability a waiver to access the facility. Year to date, over 100 tags have been issued, with over 17,000 program transactions, which is of approximately over 2% of the total transactions. This concludes the Cesar Chavez Performance Report. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Nevares. Any questions for Mr. Nevares? Comments?
No.
No?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our final report then is going to be provided by David Head, who is also part of our general engineering consultant team. And he's going to speak on the consultant team resources.
Good morning, David Head with GEC, and this will be the GEC's use of local resources. So with that, we'll look at the data, then we'll go through the graphs that are represented by that data. We'll look at the firm summary and then any questions you may have. So you've seen this before. This is the data that we use. This is life or inception to date as far as all the data that we've gathered for the local and non-local. On the left side of your screen, you can see the quarters all the way through, and we're most interested for this report in quarter 33, which is your February to April of 2017. So with that, when you look across the page to the right, the local labor is represented. In the first column, you'll have the dollar amount per quarter, and then you will have the percent for that quarter. So as we look down to those red boxes at the bottom, you'll see the last 4 quarters that are highlighted there. In quarter 33, the most current quarter, we're at 90% for the local labor at $933,000 expended that quarter. It's a little bit of a downtick from the quarter before that, but the amount that was expended was a lot more. So the total amount to date, life to date, is $17 million, and we're at 55% total use of local labor for the life to date amount. So this may be an easier slide to look at than what is thought when you first look at it. But on the left side is the dollar amounts for what the bars are representing, and those represent the quarters. So the purple bars are the non-local labor, and then the gold bars are the local labor. And so as you move across the horizontal axis down at the bottom all the way to the end on the right is quarter 33. So what you see is that the local labor is up around $900,000, whereas the non-local is way down there. So it's quite a difference there. And if you look at the trend of the gold bars as you move up, the expenditures have gone up for the local labor. So also you have the squiggly lines there. The one for the gray squiggly line is the percent local by quarter, and that's represented on the vertical axis on the right side of the screen. So you can see the little downtick to 90% from 92%. And looking at that, there's a lot more activity on the border Highway West, and so we're using some toll equipment installers are looking at that. So we're using a little bit more of that, which are really non-local. And I think that's part of that, or that seems to be the downtick. And then we haven't started a couple of the construction projects that we need to start. So hopefully this next month we'll see those come online, and that trend will move back up. The purple line is your percent cumulative, and it's up at 55%. So you see that trend still heading upward for the local. This is the summary by firms. I think you've seen this, and we just keep adding to that as far as the numbers go. So with that, I will entertain any questions.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Head? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. There being no further business for the RMA, we need an action on that. Someone wants to move to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Second.
Second.
That didn't sound reluctantly, Joe, so that's good. It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the RMA board is adjourned on July 12th at 10:02. Thank you. Appreciate everyone's time today.
Make it just in time. Yes.